Thank you. So to save time, we will have Mintek now presenting and we ask questions. But we will club together SDT and SADMPR, PMR. Then we will ask questions after they have presented. We are not going to club Mine Health, Safety Council and Safety Council with Alexco. So with your permission, honorable members, can I give each one of you 4 minutes? Yes, I think that's fair. And if you exceed 4 minutes, I stop you. A follow-up question must not take as much time you have taken in the original question, because you are asking for clarity on something that you have already asked. And if questions are not answered, you will indicate. But let's try and manage time in that manner. I will agree. Thank you. Can we please have if there be? Izawulandelwa i-SDT and SADPMR.
Can we start?
Yeah, we can start if you're.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable Media, TG, and our colleagues. And my name is Thibedi Ramontja. I'm the Chairperson of Mintek, and I'm here today with the CEO, Dr. Motuku, Senior Management of Mintek, Ms. Pretoria, and who is the acting CFO and Provenno, who is General Manager for Mineral Process and Characterization. We are pleased and honored to present Mintek's corporate plan, the annual reference plan for the 2026 financial year. Our activities are informed and anchored in our 20 strategy. They are also aligned with South Africa's national imperatives and priorities, more particularly in terms of maximizing the utilization of mineral resources by promoting mineral beneficiation, also creating a people development. Over the short medium period, Mintek is actively involved in areas which can be categorized in six strategic oriented objectives, which would conduct relevant applied research, technological innovation. I'll hand over the CEO to present our presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, honorable members, the minister, and officials, all talk observed. I would try to be brief in my presentation. A lot of this has been before, and some areas that will be covered in the presentation fully discussed. So I will just focus on really our performance and what we plan to do in the next 3 years. This is just the structure of the shareholder compact. The first part being the shareholder compact, and the second part is the strategic plan and the annual plan for 2026. But importantly, also we are showing descriptions and measurements of our indicators, which is important. Quite often we get questions also to transfer the outputs of research to industry, and this is what we call commercialization of our intellectual property. Then to indicate that they were required to promote mineral technology, and this form part of our strategic objectives as well, but also establish industries as well as expand industries. And you'll see that this reflected in our strategic objectives. I will skip this. I will skip values. They're important. They are not just for posters, but also we live these values at Mintek. And these are our strategic objectives, and strictly coming from our mandate. Conduct research, foster industrial establishment and expansion, commercialize our intellectual property, meaning we need to transfer the outputs of research to industry. But also, all this is done by people. So there's a clear focus on developing a capable workforce, and I'll start actually with the strategic objectives in my presentation. But we cannot do this without the infrastructure. Here we are talking specifically research and development infrastructure, but overall infrastructure as well. We need to make sure that we are financially sustainable. So the presentation basically will cover these 6 strategic objectives. This has been spoken to. DG's presentation started with really the global outlook. Everything that is listed here, commodities demand, price, interest rates, inflation, supply, they affect Mintek. If I just focus on the two, the gold price or the gold sector and the PGM sector, we are fully aware that the price of PGM is sitting at around 950 US dollars an ounce, and platinum, and gold is about 3,200. Okay? 500. So when I did this, that was a price at that time. Now, the impact on this on the platinum sector is huge, and we have had the platinum industry closing, retrenching, planning to retrench, some retrench, closing unprofitable shafts. But also the demand has significantly impacted this industry. Why am I mentioning this? Because Mintek's income, majority of it come from the platinum sector as well as the gold sector, and I'll illustrate that later on. Also, we had the demerger of Anglo Platinum, which is Anglo-American, which presents an opportunity for us, and I'll talk to that later. The impact of China cannot be overemphasized, as well as the US. Load shedding has been spoken to, exchange rate, and you're going to see that. And the ESG, environment, social and governance issues are playing a key role now, and I'll talk to that later on in my presentation. This is the reason why I mentioned those earlier key factors. Mintek were a global player. Here we're just showing the presence of our products and services, starting with major mining jurisdictions: Australia, China, Russia, India, Canada. You go to the south, Chile, Brazil, as well as South US. Whatever is happening in Russia, we get impacted. So where we're showing major distribution, for instance, in Russia, we have sales agents in Russia, we have products there. We have sales agents in Canada. We have sales agents covering the continent. So whatever is happening globally, it affects our global operations. If you just then look at my extreme right, probably your left, where we talk about pyrometallurgy. We have a huge division at Mintek on pyrometallurgy. This is about smelting. Whatever is happening in ferrochrome, whether it's the shutting of the furnaces, affects our business. Just for the record, most of the furnaces that were commissioned in the ferrochrome and ferroalloy industry was Mintek's involvement, majority of them. And when there's a shutdown, that's the implication, and that's why also from Mintek, we're actively involved in this area of assisting in the revival of the ferrochrome, ferroalloy industry, let me put it that way. If you just look at our instruments, products, process control, we're just showing you now, if you just look at particular products for us, very strong in Russia, South America, in terms of instruments, but also you can start to see where we have instruments and process control. That's in my presentation, is more blue than green, as reflected there. It shows how vulnerable Mintek is to the geopolitics, to everything that's happening globally. Now, to even emphasize the point, if we just look at one product from Mintek, Sinoprobe, which is used in the gold industry, where we have more than 100 units now globally, and this is a heat map for that. If there is decline in gold production in South Africa, what it means for us is we need to look globally. And whatever is happening globally impact on our business a great deal. Now coming closer to home in terms of our strategic objective, and looking at the programs. I'm not going to go in greater details on the programs, but there was a request for us to highlight what we are promising to do in the financial year. So I'll be at high level. You have seen this before. We have 6 programs that are dedicated to research as well as industry support. First, when we did an assessment, the industry indicated that they are not going to be investing in new operations a great deal, but to sweat their assets. So it was important for us to develop activities that are geared towards productivity and efficiency gains. So we have a dedicated program for that. But also it's becoming very clear that people are revisiting what they considered waste or secondary resources will be from recycling. If you look at platinum, about 25% of the supply of platinum is from recycling. So this is becoming a topic globally, and Mintek also were participating in this space. Automation, digitalization, most of those process controls actually is about this. The heat maps that I've shown, most of this, we talk about 4II at Mintek, we can commission these technologies from Randburg and monitor them from Randburg. This is where we are and advanced the country is in terms of automation and digitalization. Mineral beneficiation, we'll talk to that. Integrated solution, mine impacted water. These are 2 parts to this. First, mining is polluting, so we develop technologies to address mine impacted water. But also mineral processing is energy as well as water intensive. So we're developing processes to recycle the water that we're using in the processing and also using less water and be energy efficient. So, okay. Then there's energy efficient processes as well as energy generation and storage solutions. So the next few slides, I just explaining what I've just indicated. So if you allow me, Chair, I'll skip the next few slides to just save time. Unless there are questions later, I'll be able to take them on the programs. So I will skip these slides unless there's an objection to that. Just reiterating what I just said in greater detail. In talking to our performance now, I will then bring some of the points that I skipped in those previous slides so that I give effect to what it means. We always start here. What does it mean to have a capable workforce? For us, you need experienced workforce, but that has to be accompanied with the requisite skills and qualifications. So the first part that Mintek struggled with a great deal, it was the qualification profile. And you'll understand that it is important for us to have that to be able to continue to produce those products and services that I've indicated earlier on. So, but we can do this if we have also functioning human resource function at Mintek, which is the focus of our intervention in this financial year, but also expanding our science and technology and engineering staff. Research development programs, and I'll pause here to illustrate the importance of this part. When we started this journey, and the chair always make this reference that we spoke a lot about qualifications, and we did get questions. So what does it mean to have people with PhDs or masters? In research, you need somebody with a research experience, and you only start to get that when you do your master's and PhD. So at Mintek, to be a researcher, minimum qualification required is a master's, but ideally a PhD. And this is important because our peers are sitting at around 70 to 80% PhDs in SET. So to be globally competitive, that's the standard for us. So when we started this journey, if you look at doctoral degrees, we're at 7% of our SET employees, research cohort with PhD. We're sitting at 33%. Masters were sitting at 23%, which translated to more than 30% increase on PhD and 20%. This number is growing and it will continue to grow. People with experience. Most of our employees have experience, they've been with us for a long time. What they were lacking was the qualifications. However, people coming from the mining sector do not have the qualifications, but they have the experience. So we're balancing the two. We do indicate that we'll require them to pursue their further studies. We're investing a lot in leadership development as well as management. Most of our managers are technical people, so we need to invest in the transition from being a technical specialist to be a management and leadership. A typical example is Prof. Indrasen. We need people like him, but also sometimes they're reluctant to take management positions. So this is an attempt for us, when you look at the tables, to look at the trend. When we started, when we said from 2020 to 2024-25 financial year, a growth period, the graph doesn't really show. You will see it. When you look at total set, science, engineering, and technology, if you look at where we started from 2019, we're at 210. To be at 280, it was a major growth. But it wasn't only growth in numbers, it was also growth in experience as well as qualifications. And you can see now you cannot continue to grow. We're saying the next 3 years we're stabilizing. You can look at also, if you look at PhDs, how we have grown, MSCs, as well as the pipeline, AO1, AO3s, and entry-level positions at Mintek. Most of them have master's degrees and PhDs, but also they need to gain that experience. So what you are seeing from 2025, 26, 27 is not a lot of growth, but to keep on focusing on quality and excellence. This is what I indicated earlier on, that most of our technical divisions, if you look at capacitation in terms of people, we're almost there. What we are struggling with is to expand infrastructure to be able to take more work, which is what we'll be focusing on. Then the outer years, that's when we will grow again after we've stabilized. It is important for us to do that. Now here the numbers. If you just focus on the first number, the total number of set employees, we focus on both researchers as well as support employees. So we do report on both, and the programs even on qualification and enhancement is for all employees at Mintek. Because here we're talking about the research cohort, hence the focus on set. You can see the growth from 2021-2022, where we are currently sitting at 272, and we anticipate to stabilize around 208. It's sufficient for us to execute what we need to do. What is important is continue to make sure that we have the right pipeline. When you see NA, is that we did not elevate the KPI to the shareholder compact level, but we always monitored that, like a number of employees enrolled for further studies, starting with 400, but 40, where we are 76, and we're going to stabilize around 80, 70. This number will go down as more employees now attain their higher qualifications. In terms of representativity, you can see that Mintek achieves, as you can look at females participating. It's very difficult in the mining industry as well as science and engineering to be able to attract 46% of females in science, engineering, technology, and research. Probably this is one of the highest, maybe other few entities will be at this level. Conducting research, you can see in terms of our referee journals, referee conference papers, the red, you can see there was a major jump there. That was a COVID effect when people were working from home. So we encouraged them to write papers, to write journal articles, because we were not really operating machines. That's the effect of that. But you can see that there will be stabilizing and the growth phase will come in the 2028 financial year. And this is what it means. In this financial year, we'll continue to invest in research and development and training programs across Mintek. If you just look at the refereed publications, a growth of more than 120% from 2028-2019 financial year. And the operative word here is refereed because it means it has gone through quality check, as well as the refereed conference papers, which has increased by more than 90%. And we'll continue to encourage our employees to participate in international symposiums, to be invited as keynote and plenaries. You can only be invited to give key note, address, or plenaries if you are recognized nationally or internationally. And we're starting to see most of our employees participating in this space. I think a question will be asked, how you start to then engage, show the results of this investment in people. This also translates into Mintek being able to sign major contracts also with major global companies. And also with this level of expertise, we are starting to offer expert services as well as looking at charging what we believe we are able to receive from industry. Here, just look at the numbers. You can see that for the outer 3 years, we'll be just hovering at those numbers. Where you see preliminary performance 2024-25 and you see the numbers being high, this is the contribution from Mintek at 90, where most of our employees submitted journal papers as well as book chapters, as well as books, specifically for Mintek at 90. Industry establishment and expansion, as I indicated, we're a global player. We support the department in mine closure and rehabilitation. We will continue to do that. And what is not reflected here is additional funding that came in December, January, to seal additional 245 holdings. We've started with that process already. But of importance here, when you start talking about certified reference materials, you're talking about quality. Certified reference materials are used for quality assessment and benchmarking of analytical methods, as well as a validation of products and methods is important, and Mintek is a major player in here. Also supporting the department in the development of critical minerals and metal strategy for the country, the state of mining industry in South Africa, and recently we've been asked to be part of the task team that is developing the framework for increasing beneficiation at source, and this is a G20 task team on critical minerals. The important part here, beneficiation is done globally, but is it done at source? And this is the departure point for us to say, can we have a conversation about beneficiation at source? And it's a major thing for us to be able to distinguish the two. On that objective, these are the numbers. The important thing is to look at the number of new products and prototypes. These are new technologies coming out of Mintek. As much as we will be stabilizing on the other outputs, the focus will be here for us to translate those research outputs into new technologies, new processes, and new services, which will grow our income. Accredited methods, this talks to quality as well. Artisanal and small-scale mining, we work with MQA a lot to provide training, whether it is for artisanal small-scale miners, in jewelry, in all areas related to mining, as well as a new mine openings and rehabilitation. And what we are not seeing here is because that new funding that came after we have submitted our plans for approval. This is important to look at where we come from in terms of income from the sale of our products and services. And the growth that we are talking about, you can see it from 2020-21 financial year to where we are. What we are saying with consolidation phase, you cannot continue to grow. You need to stabilize. And the stabilization is for this next 3 years. The growth is phenomenal. The revenue from sales of product and services is about 45% of our total income. What I like to highlight here is that you can see the growth from product and services increased by 160%. But then Mintek established an Office of Technology Transfer, and we've been capacitating it. The impact of that, we are starting to now again license some of Mintek technologies. And I'll mention one, and to just highlight the impact of reliable electricity supply. One technology that we're licensing is to produce magnesium with an international company. License signed, but when we get a peak of their due diligence in terms of where they'll build the plant, South Africa is not included. And what they are citing there is a reliable supply of electricity. Actually, they are looking at countries like Egypt, because we can get magnesium from seawater. And it's high energy intensive. And I'm just using that to illustrate the point. And now in there also we're negotiating an agreement to license. We just demonstrated that you can produce iron ore using hydrogen as a reductant. This is a breakthrough. Now this is ESG presenting opportunities for the country, but if you don't tap into that and develop those, yes, it's a grudge research for us, but it's also an opportunity for us to tap into. It's very difficult. The Americans tried it and they brought it to us. Very dangerous. That's another part. I think for us, we saw an opportunity. Maybe we're a bit reckless, but we thought we could do it, and we proved it, and we're about to sign that contract. Also, in the outer years, what we're saying is because now we have the right mix of employees, we're starting to offer expert services. Expert services, you charge what you believe you're worth. We are unable to do that. If you go to McKinsey, you're going to pay. Doesn't matter. You don't even need to disclose what goes into that. This is where we're moving at Mintek. Moving away from a game of volumes, a game of expert services. And this is where we believe sustainability of Mintek lies. And here are the numbers. I think the first one, you can see income from the sale of our products, services, royalty, and licenses, starting from 142 million. Now we're sitting almost at $500 million. I think SEF will be coming. I need to use the word billions. This is where we are, $500 million. And also what I think is important for us to start noting is that we will start to increase our licensing of our technologies because of Mintek Office of Transfer Technologies. Infrastructure, I'll just go in there. It is important for us to uphold our accreditation. We are looking at ways and means of recapitalizing Mintek. Mintek hasn't been recapitalized in many, many years. And that starts to pose a challenge for us. And we're engaging with National Research Foundation on funding of equipment. We're signing an MOA with them. But also, we're looking more broadly for support from this committee, from the department, to make sure that an entity like Mintek continues to be recapitalized. In that regard, you can see we're investing in property, plant, and equipment. We invest in human capital development, but also safety is important for us. But also we need to satisfy our clients. And our target has been over 90% of client satisfaction rate, and we managed to attain that. Accreditation, we want to maintain, we will maintain our ISO accreditation, which we have been maintaining over the years. Finally, on finances, you can look at the trend up there. Total income increasing, but it cannot perpetually increase, will stabilize at some point. I think the important part that I'd like to highlight here is our liquidity ratio. It is important that they always say liquidity ratio of above 1 is good, but you want a really healthy liquidity ratio, 1.5 to 3. Mintek was sitting at 1.6, oscillating between 1.6 and 1.7. Healthy position, meaning also that they were able to really manage our working capital. The slide speaks for itself. I thought the chairperson will talk to this, the budget cuts that we did plan this presentation together. So from MTF, we were hit. Mintek is not alone in this. But the impact of this is when it was communicated for us to be able to absorb this. Around 10% of our allocation was cut. So are other entities. The impact for us is 30 million per year. It will be cut subsequent years. It's huge for an entity like Mintek. Additionally, because also DSTI was requested to cut, some of our programs were cut from the DSTI. Effectively, 45 million wiped out of our baseline. And it has an impact on really our net results and overall investment in other programs and property, plant and equipment and all the programs that I've indicated earlier on. There's a major issue. Then if you hoy in there, VAT and others, and then you can see the impact of this snowballing effect of the cuts and also anticipate that challenges coming our way. On that, I'll say thank you, and we'll take questions.
Thank you, CEO. I committed an error when we started of not handing back to the minister. I shot straight to the chair. It was oversight. Minister, over to you.
No, Chairperson, let's take questions. I thought you were taking hold of your meeting.
Thank you very much, Mintek. Can we interact with the presentation, honorable members? Was it too clear? I'll take Honorable Mhlongo, followed by Honorable Lorima, followed by Honorable Selepe, Honorable Senne, and Honorable Hassan. Just one clarity from me, and I was being opportunistic to bring it back to the minister because my question will be related to the department. So, projections, strategic objective 2. There's a bullet that says we continue to support the growth of artisanal and small-scale miners through training. I'm not sure about the 1,425, whether you project or you have, and innovative technologies like Igoli, poised to drive demand for Mintek. And then on the next page, the number of artisanal and small-scale miners, beneficiaries trained. The target for 2024-2025 was 200. Your performance was 259. Meaning that you are doing well. But there was a presentation made by the department on artisanal and small scale miners support. And there were applications that were, I can't remember whether they were, how many, but they were a sizable number. And if I'm not mistaken, you only approved 19. You will remind me, DG. So if we have small scale and artisanal miners who are trained here, and then 140 apply, and we reject them, we say they don't qualify, only 19 or 46 qualifies. What do we mean? Why are we training these people and not collaborate with Mintek and get them the support they need? Because clearly, when they are trained, when they get out of that training, they are well equipped. There was some explanation at some point that some of them could not bring proper document, and I don't believe a trained artisanal and small-scale miner would fail to make an application that is sound to the department. I'm just looking at the collaborative efforts that you have with each other, because Mintek is a subsidiary of the department. Why does it look like we're not talking to each other? That's the question. Honorable Mhlongo.
Thanks through you, Chair. Mintek's work is very important. However, I wish we can move from demonstrating projects to actual implementation. As it is said, action speaks louder, but I'm going to leave that. I am sure this was asked before many times. What hinders Mintek from upscaling its pilot project? How can we assist or render help as a committee? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Lorima.
I'm interested in the rare earth elements extraction. There was a project some years back to build a smelter to extract these elements. Could you just update us on what happened there? I'm assuming it just didn't get funding. And tell us a bit more about your bid to use coal discards to extract rare earth. Thank you.
Honorable Slepe.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think I have just only two questions. The first one is on the program 2, under the mining waste and secondary resources. Under bulletin 1. Okay, thank you. Under the bulletin 1, do you have any development plan for the small scale artisanal mining under the development process for recovering of valuable metals and the minerals from tailings slags, waste, and dusty flush? I'm checking that. Do you have any development plan for the small scales on that one? Number 2, providing the technical solution to support the sustainable site closures. What are the technical solutions that are there to support sustainable closure and the rehabilitation? And then the last one is under the integrated solution of mine impacted water. The development and implementation of technologies for the treatment of mine impacted water. Do you have areas already you have identified to implement this? Because there are areas that, as you are given the task of doing the rehabilitation, I'm checking, do you have areas that we are specifically starting with them? Because there are dams that left unattended and rehabilitated that are dangerous. Perhaps those, that kind of a project can assist if maybe you can have areas are being identified that you can start with. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Sinne.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me appreciate and welcome the presentation. Chair, just one point. I just want to find out from Mintek in terms of their stakeholder engagement and collaboration. How does Mintek engage communities, civil society, and also local government to ensure inclusive mineral development? What platforms are available for ongoing collaborations or dialogue with external stakeholders? I think maybe I missed it, but I did not hear anything from the presentation. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Hassan.
Thanks very much, Chair. Let me also appreciate the presentation. Yeah, it's always a little awkward based on where you sit. First thing, Chair, to acknowledge is that Mintek is a very good performing entity of the department, and we appreciate that. In fact, I said to the Mintek team that the last few forums we've been at, we've actually cited some of the research work that Mintek has been involved in, especially around the EV batteries, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, it is one of those entities we're very proud of. And of course, we want to continue being proud of, or perhaps be even more proud of the kind of work that's being done. The first question, Chair, is that I'm interested in the dust or fly ash processes that are used to recover valuable metals. We recently in the Portfolio Committee on Energy went to the Kusile power station, and they have quite a number of ash, I wrote down this word now. Anyway, they have ash piles, and they were talking about reusing it. I know it can be used in construction, concrete, etc. So I'm just interested to know if Mintek is working with various power stations for that, or if it's more of a commercial interaction. And if not, I think it should be something that you work with Eskom and other potential government entities. I mean, there's a whole ecosystem we can create here that can also generate revenue for the state. The second is, one of the issues you mentioned was around the Mintek attempt to bring in more masters and PhDs. Now, one of the challenges in the industry in higher education is not that we don't have, it's not, the problem is not having enough supply. We have enough young people who want to study. The challenge is around bursaries, around access to market, around access to job opportunities. Is Mintek working with any private sector sort of companies to get bursaries? Are you linking people up with it? I know that your budget may not allow for you to provide actual bursaries, but are you assisting people in linking them up to it? Because for me, that would be the bigger issue. On slide 25, you spoke about constrained infrastructure. Now, is that physical infrastructure, or do you mean growth within the organization? Because I recognize that in the latter or the outer years of the MTEF, you're looking to stabilize. I think that's understandable, but we also don't want to get into a rut of just performing at the same level. And that's why I'm interested to know, what are the constraints for growth? Yeah, are there opportunities for additional grants from universities, from different think tanks? You know, given the budget cuts that you cited right at the end, I'm just trying to understand if there's any plans to close that gap. As I will say always, we can't always rely on the Treasury, on the national fiscus, because as it becomes more constrained, we won't be able to compete at the level we need to. So we need to, at a very early stage, find alternative revenue streams. That's why I'm interested to know if there's any further attempts at partnerships or think tanks, or even a further grant funding that's in the space. On slide 26, there's a percentage of set staff with masters or PhDs. This performance of this financial year is slightly lower than other years. I think it's 1 or 2% different. It's slide 26. So I'm just interested to know what's been done to reach that target in the next financial year. We commend the preliminary performance of the journal articles. I think that's excellent. Chairperson and Minister, the G20 task team on critical minerals. I think there's a need, at least from a departmental perspective, for us to understand what's happening there, and perhaps, Chair, through you, we need to have a further meeting in the future, maybe in this term, just with a briefing from the department about what's happening in terms of their G20 task team. And I say that because it is a unique year, but it's already April, soon to be May, and if we don't, as a portfolio committee, understand the work that's happening in the G20 here. I think it's going to be a challenge. And then very last thing, I can see that thing going
And
up,
your 4
challenges with the licensing of
And your
IPs
4 minutes.
and trademark registration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister.
I think let's allow Mintek to take the first bite. Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, and thank you, Honorable members, for the questions. The first one on how can we upscale pilot projects at Mintek? I think the critical thing here is to create partnership with private sector, because you can do the pilot project, but to upscale it, you need investors to come in. So what is important is to promote the technology, create strong partnership with private sector to upscale this pilot project. But at small scale level, I mean, we can actually engage some of the communities and make sure that those pilot projects are implemented, like EGOL, which was mentioned earlier on. It's a small-scale project whereby we extract gold. So that one, we can easily implement it. But once the project becomes large, you need really partnership with private sector there. The issue of rare earth elements, we are very strong on that, and I'm going to ask the CEO to expand on that. We are really, really strong on that. CEO, want to talk about it?
Maybe to add, let me add on this demonstration, because you're going to hear about it forever, because it's part of our business portfolio. When we talk about demonstration, companies come to us to be able to demonstrate technologies or to pilot their technologies before they deploy that. So that step will forever be there for any technology, even if it is a goalie. So it's part of the process to get the technology to be implemented. So the part of implementation, then that's what the chairperson answered. Rare earth, the first part is we spoke about the centralized rare earth facility. Mintek has a rare earth pilot plant, so exists. So we are using that to support Steenkamp, Fosco. Actually, even we are looking at recovery of rare earth elements from fly ash. Actually, one of the major submission, honorable members, we made to National Treasury is to have a national program of extracting rare earth elements from those discard coals. We are talking about millions and millions of tons that are produced annually on a fly ash. Unfortunately, it was not funded, but it did go through with the support of the department. So the idea, the infrastructure to do that, and this also touched to the potential then to support small-scale miners, to support artisanal, to support communities, because this waste is sitting in communities. It's a resource that is available that we can tap into. The US is looking at this. India is looking at this. Studies have been done, and we've done some preliminary work. We've mapped where this potential, even characterized most of these dumps in terms of what can be extracted. So we'll continue to do work technically, scientifically as Mintek in this space. The issue of a smelter in South Africa, the problem is no mine is producing rare earth elements. That's the challenge. Steenkamp, they had indicated that they'll start production this financial year. We are piloting Fosco's flow sheet in terms of recovering rare earth from their waste stream. If you are fully aware that you do get rare earth elements from is monazite. I think the chair can talk to this, which the first, they use that for fertilizer production. So we do have companies who are producing fertilizers who have stockpiles. Palabra is one of them. So we work with a company for honorable members who had Mintek at 90. We were piloting a process for an American company, Rainbow Rare Earths, and this they are to treat the Palabra waste dumps. We have worked with Glenova. Also, it was a fertilizer mine. So Mintek is very strong, but also we are starting to get a lot of inquiries globally on rare earth. Okay.
Technical solutions to support rehabilitation.
Are we there already? I think there was also development process for recovery for artisanal. I've answered that, but also for artisanal and small-scale mining, when we spoke about the secondary sources, we're talking about electronic waste, for instance. We're talking about fly ash and many more areas. The technical part of it, Mintek has done the work. What we find being a challenge, yes, access to technology was a challenge, but we have engaged with a lot of small-scale mining. Access to funding is a challenge for them. And it's something that even though we partner, but we have limitations in terms of how far we can go. Sustainable solution for mine rehabilitation. Is that the one?
Yeah, what are technical solutions?
Here we talk a lot about asbestos mine rehabilitation. Actually, it's non-technical. We just bury the asbestos fibers. That's all we do. And not to touch that again. But if you are talking about gold, for instance, dams, Mintek has the technologies, and we have tried to work with communities. We are supporting a community in Klerksdorp with our solutions to be able to actually reclaim gold from those dams. So the technical solutions is available. What we often find the challenge with communities, the first part, each dump is unique. So the technical studies are important. They are in a hurry to make money, even when we say we need to understand what is in there, and we need to develop processes or flow sheet that they are appropriate for the ore body. So we do engage, and it start to talk to our engagement, stakeholder engagements. We do go out there with communities physically, and we are also being helped by the rehabilitation program because we are visible in communities and we see what other opportunities are there. When we train artisanal and small-scale mining, it's almost the majority of the provinces. Very strong in Limpopo, different communities. It's not always the same site each time. We're very prominent in Northwest, Northern Cape. We also engage even provincially. Whether it's Northern Cape, we just had a breakfast with the Premier of the Northwest at the mining Daba. So we do it across the organization, senior leadership as well as at the technical level. I think overall, the visibility of Mintek, whether it's in technical forums or whatever, it is much stronger. What was another one? So in terms of rehabilitation, solutions are there where you can extract value. Technically, we have worked with major mining houses, but also it's an area that they will be happy to also continue to support communities. Mine impacted areas, identify and treatment of water is a grudge purchase. Unfortunately, we cannot treat the water. We will provide solutions to treat the water. It's either the companies themselves or communities, but we partner. Where we are able to raise funding, like with Tungela in Malakhane, we also put our own money, but on our own, it's very expensive for us to be building that infrastructure. So we always need financial support to be able to do that.
Constrained infrastructure.
Before we go there, let me just respond. On the fly ash, we did our submission on the treatment of Eskom fly ash. Eskom was a partner in that, and that the process is led by Professor Indarasen, who's here in the room. MScs and PhDs You're correct, bursaries are needed, but what we are finding is that actually you have a lot of unemployed graduates. And that has been the focus for Mintek. MSC's, PhD, our postdoctoral program, we have about 20. These are unemployed PhDs in science, engineering, and technology. We have about 34 in partnership with the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation and National Research Foundation. But also, we have a lot of unemployed graduates who are even willing to take internship. We have signed a contract with MQA, supporting interns, with, working with also MERSITA and the Human Sciences Research Council, because they are implementing one of the biggest internship programs in the country. To that effect, we have 94 interns. These are people with degrees. So yes, bursary is important, but also let's not forget that those people, we have a lot of unemployed graduates in the country, in science, and sadly, it is in science, engineering, and technology. Constrained infrastructure, this is physical infrastructure to continue to take work. And I'll give an example. When you do this pilot plant, the work can take about a month or 6 weeks to 2 months. It means to take more work, you need more of this physical space. So in one area of biometallurgy, our order book is full. It means we need to expand. And we've been expanding to a point that we start to get those limitations in terms of space. The fortunate part of the biometallurgy, you don't require huge infrastructure, something that is affordable. So it is that is posing constraints for us. When you look at smelting, these smelting campaigns, we only have so many of these furnaces. And to build a furnace, we started in one for 3 megawatt furnace. We started 3-4 years ago. We're only completing it now. And in that time, you lose contracts. And once contracts are lost, and that we invested about 150 million, supported by the department. Fortunately, National Treasury then was still willing to come to the party. They also did give us funds. So it is that for further expansion at Mintek, in a more meaningful manner, we need major investment. So we're unable to take, in certain areas, many projects. Like in smelting, our order book is full. The PhD number we're not able to meet by a percentage. I think if you look at this slide from 237 and we're saying 285, it's a denominator effect. When you increase the denominator, the percentage will suffer. So what we normally do, we show the real numbers. In real numbers, we're increasing. It's just that also when you do well and able to attract more, the denominator hits you hard. So in our quarterly reports, we give both the percentage but the actual numbers to show that in actual numbers we are growing.
G20. G20 testing.
I think that's the question I missed. What was the question on G20?
What are you doing?
The minister will take it. It's about my pay grade.
Okay, minister. Challenges with IP. IP, what are the challenges? It's too.
Challenges with IP. Licenses of technologies, the first thing maybe I need to say is we assess the strength of our technologies and the strength of our patents. Some of them were weak, actually we exited them. For you to be able to successfully transfer technologies, most of them, they look good on paper, but some of them we had to exit. So the few examples that I'm giving here, some of them existed, but the market wasn't ready for that. So sometimes it's opportunistic. So the trademark, we had a tendency to, before we even have the technology at a certain point, we trademarked it. But also we tended to register patents. Most of our patents were in South Africa. The challenge with that is that South Africa is not an examining country, so the strength of that patent is not being tested globally. So those are the issues that we consider in that space.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Can I give the DG to talk about train one pass all?
No, thank you, Minister. Chair, I think from my side, in response to your question, let me first start by accepting that there is a need for streamlining the various initiatives on artisanal and small-scale mining. And that process actually started last year already with the work that Mintek is doing. But we've also started a conversation with CGS, because when you look at the policy talks to making a proposal that CGS must allocate an area for artisanal and small-scale miners, to do the mining. So there is that discussion to streamline the various processes. That will also make sure that we streamline the limited resources that we have. You may train 200, but there may not be sufficient money to give all 200 people, assuming they all have licenses to operate. But I know that not all of them, and not going into the details of why the various projects failed, there was a criteria, and one of them was that you needed to have a permit, etc., and you needed to have a business case. And some of the projects, they didn't get the funding out of the 200-somethings because they did not have those in place, which then talks to the point that you're raising around the support systems that we put in place, so that once you've trained people, how do you make sure that they are successful beyond the training? So there is that streamlining and collaboration that the conversation has started around. Thank you.
On the G21, we are not a working group. We are a task force, which is subjected to working groups. There was an effort to make it a cross-cutting task force of critical minerals. Others want to see critical minerals for what they are. Others want to see critical minerals only for green economy. And our view is that critical, almost all minerals are critical, depending on where you are. That's why there's no universal description of what a critical mineral is. US has its own, and there are factors that they take into account in giving that title to a mineral. EU have their own, Australia have their own, Canada has their own, China have their own. We are developing ours. When you get that strategy, Honorable Chairperson, you are going to see 18 minerals we have identified as critical minerals. So we are in that task force. We are actually going to have a stakeholder engagement on the 23rd of May, where we're going to be engaging on critical minerals. Our proposal was that that task team must also include small-scale and artisanal mining, and also bring in a debate on illegal mining, because we're discovering that it is not a South African phenomenon. It's well spread all over. And we have shown that we have received quite an interesting list from Latin America who want to join that stakeholder engagement. The offer that we want to put on the table, Honorable Chairperson, is that when the committee is ready for us, you can invite us. We come and make a presentation here in the portfolio committee. We can do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, those are the responses. And we're quite happy, Honorable Minister, that the stakeholder engagement will invite the small scale and artisanal mining, but also discuss the element of illegal mining so that South Africans, all of them, understand the difference. Yeah, I'll leave it there. DG knows why. I'm in trouble because I refused to see artisanal illegal miners as small scale, because there's a difference. But let me leave it there. Thank you very much, Mintek.